Okay. Okay, well, welcome everybody to Head for the Hills. It's really exciting to be here with friends and everybody else, friends. So I'm Sherry, I'm the host. I've been doing this for 3 years. It was first live at the Hillsdale Library in Portland. We had this beautiful big room and windows, and it was wonderful. And then, as you know, COVID hit. So we've been doing on Zoom for what, a year now? Dale? Dale,
It's been a year and a half.
what?
It's been a year and a half.
A year and a half. Wow. So what's so great about us is that we can have anybody from all over the world, but definitely from people who can't reach us, like from, Nancy's in Baker City, and I've had people from England and all over the world. So we're really lucky, and I feel really grateful to have two wonderful poets read for us tonight. So Susan, did you want to read first?
Yes.
Okay, so are you ready for me to introduce you, Susan?
I am, thank you.
Okay. So if you'd like, everybody can turn their speaker view on too. That's what I do. Okay. Susan Leslie Moore's poetry has appeared in Best American Poetry, the New York Times Magazine, New York Quarterly, Poetry Northwest, Willow Springs, and elsewhere. She is the author of the collection That Place Where You Opened Your Hands, winner of the Juniper Prize in Poetry, published by University of Massachusetts Press. She lives in Portland, Oregon. We welcome Susan.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to read some new poems, and then I'm going to read some poems from my book. So I still see Sherry's, so let me see. I'm going to change my view here so I can see myself. There I am. Okay. Okay. Thank you all for being here tonight. First poem's called Wishful Thinking. I want a mind like Gillian Connolly's and a heart like Ada Lamone's. I want summer to slide into fall the same way it always does, pears rotting by the side of the road. I want some gangster pain. Someday I'll look back and think that was my last chance to learn to play guitar, but not too late to learn to draw. Someday I'll stop chasing my past lives around the backyard. I'll let them rest in their bed of spent blooms. I want to dig up the front lawn and replace it with a giant swimming pool, plant some palm trees and pretend I'm a movie star. I want the wolf costume in my closet to fit perfectly every time I try it on. I want to live long enough to wear it to the grocery store, an old woman howling in the canned foods aisle. This next poem is called To Live. To live like it was something we knew how to do, not a practice, just existence. Whenever someone reminded us that all life was suffering, we stood under the skylight and raised our hands above our heads. It was all the praying we could manage. We couldn't decide. Was everything connected? So the squirrel's death was ours, the blanket of leaves on the ground our bed? Or were we separate from the mountains in the distance, the unpaved road behind the house we walked by every evening? Or maybe we were somewhere in between, and when we lay on the ground and pointed at stars, we weren't just pointing at constellations light years away, but at something that shone still inside us. This next poem's called In High School, which I think is a great prompt if you ever need something to write about. Just put in high school at the top of the page, because we all carry that stuff with us. So in high school, we passed notes in the halls and wondered what our mothers knew and why they kept it to themselves. We read their books and smoked their cigarettes when we thought they weren't looking. Somehow they were always looking. Your mother's favorite quote was, "We are what we pretend to be," though it was years before we understood. They cooked our dinners and washed our sheets and reminded us not to get pregnant. Not much happened we weren't prepared for, was the attitude we adopted. Even the night we waited longer than we had ever waited for your father to pick us up after the dance and stood under the lights in front of our deserted school and imagined the dangers that might befall us. Thanks. So this is called Night of the Living. Sort of based on, I don't know if you've ever tried that app on your phone that lets you point at the stars and it tells you what the constellations are. It's pretty cool. This is called Night of the Living. If the constellation of stars above your house looks like a woman skating across a lake, you could name it that. If someone long before you called it warrior with a sword or dragon at the gate, it doesn't matter. It's your sky now. If you're lost in the evening fog, all your former selves line up by the side of the road to show you the way home. If you want to pry open the moon and crawl inside, remember the sky waits like a clock for you to unwind. The planets contain the fur of woolly mammoths and fossilized ferns that never got to be trees. Your position relative to them is what you think about when night is a rabbit hole and sleep is a coin toss. A hand moves across your face in a dream you are having about being alive. When you wake up, the hand disappears along with the way it felt to be dreaming, on the edge of some great adventure. The shadows of owls against the trees are not owls, but you can pretend the sound of branches against the window is someone trying to get in. You can breathe and imagine the night breathes with you. And here's another poem that has some stars and atmosphere in it. I guess I like writing about that. It's called As the Sparks Fly Upward. How's everybody doing? I'm still not used to Zoom readings.
I'm sorry, Susan, I just need to stop for a second because I just want to make sure everybody's muted because I've muted people and that seems to be unmuted. So please, everybody, if you could just mute yourself. Thank you.
As the sparks fly upward. My favorite part of the universe is the atmosphere beyond the Milky Way, where stars that have yet to be named drift towards each other on a collision course that won't end in my lifetime. Does anything inhabit them, or is it only dust and Swiss cheese? When I was a kid, my favorite record was Jiminy Cricket singing When You Wish Upon a Star on a 45 I played over and over on my portable record player. If your heart is in your dreams, no request is too extreme. But what if your heart is in your darkest self? You might turn into a donkey. Some people still believe the earth is flat and pictures the astronauts sent from space are forged. Maybe they think if a surgeon cut them open, they wouldn't find organs, just a miniature train set carrying their blood from place to place. The scientist who first saw cells under a microscope didn't name them after prison, but the rooms monks inhabit in between vespers. He was studying a piece of cork. Sometimes seeing feels like praying, especially when no one understands when you tell them it's not just cork, it's all of us, our bodies assembled like honeycombs. My favorite part of coming home is the man standing in my kitchen, who I would never describe as not having a care in the world, but who somehow makes me feel careless, like I could throw a kitten off the roof and he'd catch it. There is mystery in everything is another way of saying no one is sure why we have clouds. Some people like the sky best when it's empty and waiting for us to introduce ourselves. Hello, stranger. What took you so long? So one more, and then I'm going to read some poems from my book. I wrote this poem, I think, when quarantine and COVID had just begun. So I lift my heart to the pine trees, but they never notice me. I'd like to thank everyone for getting me here today, especially the coffee maker and toaster oven. Maybe the mourning dove perched on the telephone wire thinks that's how you make a phone call. Remember when weeding was important. Now I want every plant to grow and spread, the more reckless, the better. I want to shrink everything I own into one drawer so I have room for more stuff. When I was a kid, I walked everywhere alone, the swimming pool, movie theater, library. Still, I am unprepared for this moment. The seeds you shove in the ground first are sometimes the last to bloom. Don't look for yourself in photos of long gone relatives. Time is a fox hunting you. Great. So now I'm going to read from my book. Let's see. I wanted to lie down with you where the rooftops. That's one of those poems where the first line goes into the title goes into the first line. So I wanted to lie down with you where the rooftops dissolved if we stared long enough. You said unless we were full of each other, we'd only be cardboard cutouts in a sky that continues whether or not we were there to witness, whether we were part of the landscape or only passing through. I had a good time today thinking about Jesus. Everyone gets murdered eventually, and only the lucky ones get to choose the weapon that will be their undoing. I wanted to flatten the mountains so they'd fit more neatly against the sky. You were outside pushing your feelings into clouds. I'm doing pretty well with this incarnation, less settled, and the seasons come at me harder. I left all the lights on and then walked through the house and turned them off, stopping at each window to look for a face pressed against the glass. I wanted to die standing up, looking towards the horizon at something moving toward me, a ship or a really big animal. You said unless we rubbed our bodies together, we wouldn't understand beauty. I wanted to hold my skull in my hands, to know how the bones fit together and the place I could press on hard to make it shatter. I had a poem earlier called To Live, and this is called To Take. To take. I stole another woman's only scarf and fed the calf and brushed its coat. I tore the scarf to pieces and swore I'd never leave the lake. The map of the lake had a place marked by an arrow. I buried the scarf there. I lived a little too close to the shore and the pelicans gathered at my back door. I emptied a bucket of fish in the kitchen sink and opened the window wide. Will you believe me when I say I didn't mean to steal it? The scarf was hers and no one there to tell me not to take it. The pelicans dived toward the window, but only one made it in, the smallest one. Do you know what happened then? How it filled its bill with fish and flew back out the way it came? The fish a gift for a bird that could find enough to eat without me. The scarf in pieces buried near the lake with other secrets kept nearby. I slept while the frogs and flies sang back and forth their nighttime songs. The lake was mine, the calf and pelican safe in my keeping. I could knit another scarf and leave it on her doorstep. I could fill the sink with fish again. I was patient. It was an accident the way I took the scarf when no one stood nearby. I'm gonna start. Oops, not read that. Okay. I say to the stars, get inside me. I say to the stars, get inside me, because that's the way I talk to the sky. Stars are like dead people that can't say goodbye. Falling in love is so ordinary, but if you pushed me down on the floor, I might start to sing. Go to sleep, wake up, go to sleep. I need a new routine. You said unless we are full of each other, our bodies are only machines. When the world doesn't work, I pry it open with a crowbar and catch everything that falls. When you won't talk to me, I light a candle in my lungs. I sneak up on starlings to practice strangulation. Cover my eyes with your hands and I'll pretend I can't see where your body ends. This is called I Have Tried Hard to Have Appropriate Feelings. I have folded them away like sweaters, kept my distance from the moon, visited the sick. I am proud of the life in my head. Nobody knows the garden I've seen. I am tender with the suburb. Some days even the ceiling worries me the way it keeps the roof on. I only cry when the polar bears get to me, the ones stranded on the melting ice. Otherwise, I'm kept in line by the steady curve of my driveway, the tight fists of the roses. I can easily converse about the sweet peas and our eventual disintegration. The sky has more to say to me than I could ever hear, given the restricted space between houses. Frogs sing at night and the whine of the train. This one's called Every Day is a New Day. And I know I wrote it a while ago because it has permission slips in it, and it's been a couple of years since I've had to sign a permission slip. So every day is a new day, like today, a ridiculous day when the shoes are in my way and the dog trips me in the hall. They say a dog's a wolf, but I don't believe it. A dog's a wolf like I'm a peasant in a mud hut. There's a raccoon in the hedges sleeping behind the squirrel. It's not a dream, it's the alternate reality where we're living with creatures and our timeline is cursed, or worse. I was first to the fence with my offerings. I sighed when I should have been praying. I don't know what I believe in anymore, but I still pray, and not a just in case prayer or a foxhole prayer. It's a prayer with a beak and a splintered wing. There's a deer in my backyard eating grass and staring at me. Mule deer, wolf dog, birds at the feeder. I'm far from the hut, ripe in the suburbs, and I can't find my keys. I can't find a clean pair of pants or a pen to sign the permission slips. Let me help you with that buckle, that zipper, that fistful of shells we brought back from the beach. They looked better in the sand. The Canada geese and spent primrose make me feel hopeful and wronged. I'm reading my future in coffee ground patterns, reading my life in the dirt and the clouds. Sun in my eyes and knife on the counter, I'm feeling like a new day, a blue sky day with a no bad news today intention or prayer, whatever this day. I keep coming across the word prayer in my poems, and it's like, it's funny when you see a word come up over and over again in your poems and it doesn't feel like like it's a surprise. So this is called The Fuchsia, the Orange, and the Dahlias. And I wrote it for John Ashbery, and then I sent it to him, and I never heard from him, but I still have the poem. The Fuchsia, the Orange, and the Dahlias. We were waiting what seemed like a long time when someone said they thought the sign pointing left had been deliberately forged and the route to the city had become untenable. The conversation kept returning to science, to fields of cows and numbers. Meanwhile, the days paraded their soft perfume. A neighbor pulled a tapestry from the shelf, and we noticed how bright the colors were, how the orange and fuchsia in the bird's wings made it seem not mythical but fleeting, and how the dahlias woven into the garden held a message of purpose, or the signs of a leisure we couldn't possess. It was all we could do not to comment on it for hours. Some of us felt strange in the heat, as though we could taste the sun in our hair or fold it in our hands like paper. The past was to be shunned. If it knocked, we agreed not to answer. Such forms of resolve kept us incorrigible for days. I think I'm going to read 2 more poems. Okay. Okay. Sight comes to owls slowly. They leave their nests and their foreheads ache. They think the day wants to hurt them. So when I wore my owl suit, the atoms of owls shifted inside me. I climbed into the sky and they believed me possible owl. I flapped my wings like night and hidden, but I was not so sure an owl. First I wore the body and then I wore the head. And when I asked for trees, they gave me trees, but not how I wanted. Not like limbs to practice dives from sky to bigger sky, but trees that bent their branches to land me safely in the sky. Daughter on the ground, but in the sky I rested. When the night was tall, my wings, where trees became more trees and then a sky to sleep in. A nest and what I found inside cracked shells and molting. And what I saw was shadows. My sister owls were far above me, the ground a long way down, and nothing in the trees that heard me. Okay. This poem is called Telescope versus Microscope, which you didn't know was an epic throwdown, but it is. It's a long-standing rivalry. I make myself laugh. I made Armin laugh. Telescope versus microscope. All those tiny bugs that crawl along my eyelids, devouring dead skin. The edge of space like a hotel room before your shoes drop in the corner and your body creases the taut sheets. The smallest inhalation of breath when fog moves into the yard. If I could hover above my life like an astronaut, I might see how I misunderstood the shape of it. A chain of events linked by repeating attempts to find a piece of ground that fits. And this is my last poem before yielding the floor to my esteemed colleague, John Morrison. I've been waiting all day to say that, John. Okay, this poem is called Surrender. The bark stacked on the ground with tracks of insects that bore into it for food is all that's left of the trees. I work hard to abandon my former selves. I climb into them at night, then step out of them each morning. Giving up the fight is not the same as letting go, and letting go is more like how an animal leaves its body only when every part is extinguished. When every part of me is shimmered through like a river flushed from its shore. When I give up what the sky has done to me, then the singing begins. Thank you. That was fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan. I think you did a great job for not reading on Zoom. Is this your first Zoom reading?
No.
No. Yeah, it's kind of, it's like an abyss, you know, it's an abyss with little heads. So I think that was great.
That's a great way to put it.
Well, thank you. It was really wonderful. And people want to buy your book. Dale, did you put it in hers in the chat?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so our next featured reader is John Morrison. And so I get to say that John Morrison was basically my first poetry teacher, one of my best poetry teachers. And he encouraged me and to continue writing and supported me writing my book. And so I'm so honored to have him read here tonight. I'm going to introduce him. John C. Morrison lives in Portland, Oregon. His first book, Heaven of the Moment, won the Rhea and Seymour Gorstline Poetry Competition, and was a finalist for the Oregon Book Award in Poetry. His latest book, Monkey Island, was recently published by Red Bat Books. He teaches at Portland Community College and at the Attic Institute as an associate fellow. He is also an associate editor for the fabulous journal of literature, The Phantom Drift. Welcome, John Morrison.
Thank you, Sherry. Yes, it's a fabulous journal, but it's also a journal of fabulous literature. Let's see. Thank you. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Dale. Thanks to all of you for being here. Thanks to Susan. This book comes highly recommended. Because Susan set me up. She knew she was going to read great, and now I'm a mess. So let's get going. I like reading new poets. I like reading books from poets I know, but I also like to return to friends sometimes. And I'd like to begin with a book from Gaze, which is by Christopher Howell. Hammer for Dev Hathaway. It's the same one my grandfather threw off the roof after smacking his thumb. Heft it and you might see it still tumbling like a re-entering satellite through the butter-colored birdsong of spring. Its hard ears cocked as if hearing the look out that follows it, spitting out nails and sending sick shingles into the tops of nearby trees. Maybe you even see it coming like you're 9 years old and in love with ladders and the magical clink and thud of and silver shine of tools. Beyond it too, perhaps you glimpse the horrified faces, mouths open like zeros, eyebrows way up toward the bills of those once white snap down caps as you catch with a cherubic juggler's grace this hammer and pray you might be given to bear it all the way back up each sacred rung to where the gods who will never die are repairing the roof of heaven. So that's from Christopher Howell's book, Gaze. Didn't we, Susan, didn't we all write at least a few poems in the pandemic that will forever mark for us that we were there? This first poem is called Everything. Everything you wish, I wish too. Everything. Everything you wish. Everything I wish with you, for you, from the whole whale-sized wish to the least wish, a wish too tiny to see, and the second to the least, and the least tucked inside the second, and they tucked inside one another, and another. Any wee infinite wish. And I wish your next wish, a good next wish, even a proud next wish. I'm proud to wish your next wish with you too. The wish where you touch a river, the wish where all is revealed. I'll go ahead and read some poems from Monkey Island, and then I'll read some newer poems. This is called Welcome. Always in the shadow, north side of the mountain, our town of scrap wood and tin, duct tape and tar paper never had a name. Never claimed, never christened, never chartered. We remained incorporeal as wind that gusted and stung with sand grains. In the boonies we bruised where the boogeyman watched us sleep. We refused welcome, pistachio, harbinger, zeal, our post office a bucket, a boulder our idiot. We called where we collected the dry and cold, forgotten in scrub oaks between prairie and scabland and gravelly arroyo. We lotioned our elbows and whispered day to day in a dialect of moth. Yeah, my brother had a friend who lived on the north side of Mount Shasta, and it was just the Wild West. Well, what do I mean? I think it was supposed to be a development that never got developed, and people dragged a lot of trailers out there. That's what I think. This is called The Family Dog. For a full year, our dad lived away on an island and flew planes heavy with missiles and gold, and on weekends would golf with gorillas. At home, our mother was lost in the pantry or the laundry, the attic or behind the water heater, where she'd open the electrical panel with a trouble life and butter knife and tinkered with the base circuitry of our home. Summer, my older brothers found a shaded bank along Wild Horse Creek where they and their 16-year-old friends could drink beer and slug each other. My oldest sister neglected her hair and washed the dishes. My next sister read historical novels in a room for 9 straight days, slept for 3, and returned to the court of Charlemagne. My little sister sucked a pebble and kept asking, "Where's Dad?" I'd say, "Sis, the plane, the missiles, the gold, the golf, the gorillas, remember?" Then the lights would flicker out, and from deep in the house, we'd hear Mother curse, "Damn." They'd flicker back on, and the big fan in the living room, a monster my size by the name of Arctic Breeze, with a blade like my father's propeller, would wind up to a deep, resonant whir and spit a subtle rose water from a reservoir our mother filled each morning with a crushed potion of red and yellow velvet petals. I was the family dog, sniffing the trail by the creek, sniffing the steps to the basement, the threshold to my sister's room, the clean plates in the dish drainer, the family dog, unless I was a boy answering my sister, "Gold, golf, remember? Missiles, gorillas," or lying on the living room floor, damp in fragrance, or wrenching the rabbit ears right on the TV to scare away the ghosts stalking Daniel Boone and his Cherokee blood brother, the fey yet lethal Mingo, a TV I would now and then hug. You know how warm TVs used to get. You could hug them. They were huggable, highly huggable. When I was 6, my father was away for a year for the Vietnam War. He was in the Air Force. He flew support for the war from the Philippines. And the word guerrilla kind of got into my consciousness because I'd hear that this was a guerrilla war. And I was, and continue to be, terrified. How do you go to war with guerrillas? That's not a good move. Not a good move. But when my father returned, he, after he learned our names again, he would, roughhouse with us, play, throw us around. And he called himself the Big Amunkum. This called my father the gorilla. My own father didn't know what to do with me. Hairy arms held me close to hairy chest, and I looked up into his soft, troubled eyes. The church in Darwin told him, "You can't have a human child," but he cared for me more than dogma. He chased my cousins and me around the yard with a rolling, knuckle-running gait, whooping and tipping over baby hippos and stuttering, "You bad monkeys, you bad monkeys, you bad." We used pith helmets as bowls for coconut milk and explorer knives to scratch our butts and cut ourselves free from the webs of giant spiders. And for our whole time together, we loved the trees and the breeze at night. We'd climb into high hammocks we braided from python skins, sway and hum until we fell asleep. Then at 20, I needed more than bananas and grubs, crouching in the rain with only a leaf for a hat, and always being wary of poachers and missionaries. I met my mate on the path by the blue giraffes. She brought me a pair of trousers and led me away to have our own children who grow more human with every tomato. No word in gorilla says forever. So my father and I slapped each other goodbye. Kim, my wife and I have lived in this house for a while, and the leaves aren't all down yet. The trees we have just hang on to leaves. Our plan for the leaves is to burn them all and all at once in a mountain heap the night before the rains roll in and rot their crisp color to slop. A conflagration, yes, worthy of the end. Birch, sweet gum, willow, the flouncy scraps of fall, oak, elm, ginkgo, one big fire, huge. In fact, bomb. I'll recruit my fireman uncles Hector and Jess back from the dead and glad to be the chiefs who hand out the same sturdy toy fire hats they gave us as kids. We'll skip around hollering in the flickering light of the bonfire as they stand back and cross their arms and see we keep the high sparks from catching a flame, the flickering nuggets of ice we call the stars. Those are your sparks, Susan, going up to heaven right there. This poem, I've had a lot of fun writing poems like this. You write a title, kind of nondescript title, but with plenty of possibilities. And then you see how far you can get from the first line to the last line. It's called the last step of the plan. After the heist, we can drop by the gloomy little bakery, step into the soft aromas, and pick up a dozen macaroons, pink. Sit on a stone bench outside the Museum of Natural History, count our loot into the high 300s. And I can ask how you feel whenever you see the skeleton of a woolly mammoth, the bones tea-stained to a shiny, rich mahogany. Puzzled? Amused? Empty? A woolly mammoth with a big, bony dome crammed with all her smarts and kindness could be a first-rate friend once we run her through the car wash a few times. Close your eyes, little sister, close your eyes. We'd never be cold at night. The whole family wound in the deep pile of her pelt, asleep in the oceanic swells of her husky, breathing and dreaming austere tundra dreams. Gentle with any talk of extinction. No one takes the topic well. When we can't keep enough cereal in the house, can't make nearly enough popcorn balls for her snacks, we'll lead her by trunk to the breadth of the Zumwalt prairie, the vast grassland, into quiet contemplation and sere winds. She'd browse and amble and fit in out there, eyed from the distance by wolves, just like at home in prehistory. We kind of shrink as we get older. By spring, my mother will be the size of a gnome and could become lost as the garden leaves out. Mother, I'll call. Mother, would you like some tea? A rustle in the hydrangea, where she's made a little nest to stay cool come summer, and she peeks out. Cinnamon? Yes, mother, I say. Cinnamon in your blue mug, cobalt blue from a doll's china set. I cup her up onto my shoulder and we stroll to the kitchen nook as she chatters about the wind chime and how sweet the neighbor's one-eyed cat. I tell her soon she will be too tiny to be out by herself because of the nasty scrub jay, and before I too begin to shrink, I can make a room for her in an acorn charm around my neck until she is so wee, she fits among the molecules where I walk and breathe, walk and breathe. Oh, I think I lost track of time. No, I'm sure I lost track of time.
It's okay, John. We have all night. We have till 8:30.
You don't have all night. You do. None of you have all night.
Yeah.
I'll read a few more poems. These are newer. This is called the game called Adam. We named new colors, blue, bile, and butterscotch, bugs, tank, and whizzle. We named the day and said, stay the same until we name again. Each name a ghost inside a moment. Every name a rename. Clouds, maybe, clouds will. Named our childhood mayonnaise when we meant malaise. Renamed the blueberry resolute. Named 7 textures of meat, 18 qualities of wind, 14 of light, 4 underwater. We named fists and dicks. Craig's baby, Dirk's Dirk, Dale's Theodore, mine Sugar Bear. Summer came and unfolded the lawn chairs. We had a secret name for a secret tribe, then joined to keep the secret. We forgot the name and named the fog why. Our court had no scribe, only jesters and executioners. We named the known universe and then the unknown, wherein shall dwell all the names yet to be and be bestowed. We named ourselves Ordinary, our hair Dally. Holler our name, and the name came back behind us through the oak woods, covered our eyes, and whispered in our ear, guess who? A dove named Hollow did no better. Prayer was written in other letters. At night, we'd hear the mockingbird and ask, who does he name? Summer folded colors except the green and deep shade beside the creek, where we named the nettles underneath. Let's see. Hi guys, I just spilled some poems. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm spilling poems. 14 rules for a game called Ghost. When your turn comes, this should be number 1. When your turn comes, you go off by yourself someplace dark and quiet with spiders. 2, you cannot take the dog with you. 3, the other players will forget you and do ordinary things. Chores, read, walk, whistle, eventually stub a toe. 4, after a time you can come back. You don't have to. You can forget and sit on a rock by the creek, watch shadows, become moss. 5, if you come back see-through. 6, you can stand near the other players, breathe on them, even talk to them, but they will mistake you for a little itch. 7, you cannot wash your face. 8, you can try to get attention with tiny tricks, move a half glass of water from the living room to a hallway table, but they will only stand for a moment, puzzled. 9, you cannot sleep. 10, they may sense you and think of a scarf you wore or a word you would say, and then look toward and through you. 11, the dog must forever ignore you. 12, you can visit a dream, yet can never tell the truth. 13, you cannot ever be hungry. You will remember the taste of vinegar. 14, you must stay your age or be younger, never older. I'm going to read this poem on the assumption that it's going to be fun to read. I was with a friend. We were walking around at night, this many years ago, and when I used to live in another town, in a sketchy part of that town, and there was just a pack of dogs roaming around like they do at night. I think people just open their doors, they go on outside. So we came across the night pack. Roses gray, the moon's reflection, a camisole drowned in the slow creek, then a pack, a dozen or so mutts of every make, colors from charcoal to gold, out to tip trash can, mall boots left back door, savage hapless possum. They came at us in a snarl. Were we to turn and run, they would close and rip our calves like skittering chickens. So we bow, coo, and offer all we have, the scent of our hands. And as they swarm to sniff, fingertip to wrist, growl becomes grunt, becomes mere guff. And before long, they wag, and before they wag, waddle away to flop, roll, and chuck hole dust. They stay for us to touch muzzle and name Khalil, Cami, Serponch, Violet, Hofbrow, Plato, stroke wiggly flank, the inside of soft ear, Kit, Miss Amelia, Carmelina, the plumed flounce of a tail, baby chop. Two more poems, but I gotta fetch one. I can't decide. I can't decide between the coldest day, a pearl of ice, or the first puff of spring. I can't decide whether I want the longest night with its stark, quiet, and brittle insinuations, or the morning that arrives like a morning that has loved me since I first breathed and didn't know that at noon, the rough gray wood of the shed would tick as the Blair sun ticks the temperature higher. I can't decide without setting aside a long dusk, which might just tip back to daylight for all we know. A dusk so committed to inner qualities, it stalls, and aunts, uncles, friends who have gone step back through the half-light like they never left. And where is the cold beer, the potato salad? Meantime, night comes and a porch, a hush, as the sky decides for me the first bat stitch between the shadow trees. So I'll read this last poem, but thank you again, all of you being here. Thank you, Susan, for your reading. Thank you, Sherry and Dale, for the work you do to put this on and gathering such a community. Thank you. So yeah, along with COVID, I think someone could be forgiven for thinking a little bit of the end of the world. And that had me thinking a little bit of the Gospel of Mark, where he tells us Jesus is going to come back and separate the goats from the sheep. I'm thinking, I kind of like goats. So it's called Goats from Sheep. The day of reckoning, you and I will say hello for the first time. Everyone edgy, I will peel and offer half an orange. Though goats are a little unsettling, the way they stare with amber eyes, for luck, I like to rub the bony nub between the horns, and you know why. How determined they are. How with a tap, tap of gentle correction, they can browse the day of fearful bramble, even in heaven. How enlightening, sturdy, they just breathe to bestow calm upon companion horse. There will be a lot of barking from all the frightened dogs, a lot of erratic moths loose in the air, but with lovely ferny antennae and opalescent wings. Fuchsia is absolutely your color. We can lock eyes to stay steady, reach, tangle fingers, and then hold hands up to the end, maybe after. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Susan. So wonderful. So wonderful. I'm recording this, so if you want to hear them again, I can send it to you. And if you would like to purchase John's book or Susan's book, it's been in the chat. I know Dale's been putting it in the chat. Should we just do it one more time? Okay. Okay. So I guess we could just kind of take a breather for a sec. So this is the part 2 of our our reading that we have. And before we turn it over to open mic, where basically everybody gets one poem to read, and if we have more time, we will. I'm just going to open it up to announcements. So the next Head for the Hills will be December 21st. It's a Tuesday, and it's going to be entirely open mic. So bring your poems, and sorry we can't meet in person, but who knows. The next announcement is I am going to be reading live with Leanne Grable. Are you still here, Leanne? Maybe if you could.
I'm here.
Yeah, okay, so
Decision has been made. We're going forward.
we're gonna go forward. It's at the Rose City Book Pub. Do
Yeah.
you know? So we're gonna be live, and if you would like to come and get a drink, maybe get some food, it would be really great. Hopefully somebody will come.
And you have to show your vaccination cards
Yeah,
and wear a mask. But we don't have to.
right.
There you have it. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see, our next announcement is anybody need to make an announcement about a book that just came out or anything that you'd like to tell us? Okay, well, I'm happy that many people of you are staying, but if you need to go, you go. So let's what day is the Rose City Book Pub? It's
December 10th,
December 10th.
7 p.m., 7 to 8. And it's between 13th and 14th on Fremont Northeast.
Can you tell us what it's the Rose City Pub is? Leanne, I mean, how would you do? So it's a pub, right?
It's a pub, but the decorations are books. So you're like every wall space is covered with bookshelves. And so there's all these little nooks to read, and the food is good. They have beer and wine, and then food, and it's just cozy. And the woman Elise is very welcome into literary events.
Yeah.
And so if anyone wants it, it's a great place to read because of that, and just because it's so cozy and it's all book lined, and she's very open to anybody setting up readings there. I recommend it as a place, and I guess we're opening up.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's like, I know people are afraid, but we still go out, we still go to restaurants, right? I mean, we still,
Yeah,
we can't be frightened little turtles all the time, Not that
yeah, no frightened turtles.
Anyway, well, you're welcome, and
We're doing it.
We're doing it, right. So, okay, so let's start with our open mic. Let's see, is there anybody who doesn't want to read? If you could just raise your hand, you don't want to read. Okay, great, so I won't call on you. Okay, so the first reader, I'm going to ask Vivian if you'd like to read.
Sure. Thank you so much, Sherry and Dale, and wonderful readings, Susan and John. What a treat. I have one recent poem to share with you. It's called A Deeper Ruby and Smoldering Eye, a line from Rita Dove's Girls on the Town. 30 seconds across the threshold, the music grabs your neck and shoulders, shakes you free from questions, your mother's worried eyes, your father's raised brows. Across the darkened room, you recognize faces lit by swirling silver flashes, red lips laughing, eyes outlined in diamond glister. These are your people, your sisters in youth. You close your eyes, ease your body onto the dance floor. Now the music envelops. Now the perfume, aftershave, incense engulf. Sweat dampens your armpits, itches your hairline. You swirl your psychedelic gold and green tent dress. You feel a tap on your shoulder. Turn to a wide smile, narrow eyes, a warm hand on your wrist, and the music propels you on and on. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. So let's see, Anne Farley, would you like to read?
Thank you, Sherry, and thank you, Susan and John. It's great to hear your work. Actually, yeah, Peter Gordon is still here. Last time Head for the Hills met, Peter Gordon read a very good recipe poem, which was a new concept, and I was really enthralled by it. And then the next day, I was going to cook a recipe that a friend of my mother's gave her probably more than 50 years ago. And I thought this could be a poem. So here it is. Thank you, Peter. You inspired me. Appreciate it. Bami. It was Mika's recipe, told the way recipes were told the old way, the way you learn, standing side by side. Pork cut in pieces. Some of this, a little of that, more if you like spicy. Mika was born in Batavia, Dutch East Indies, of Dutch parents. She was loud, waved her arms about, was quick to hug. Garlic powder, ginger powder. We tinkered with the recipe. Powders gave way to fresh chopped celery. When she was 21, Mika and her family were imprisoned by the Japanese during World War II. While in the camp, she kept a journal, painted watercolors of camp life. One Thanksgiving, she sat on our couch, rolled back the sleeve of her dress, bared her number tattoo, cried her story. Onions. In 1946, she and her family returned to the Netherlands. She met and married her husband. They moved first to Canada, then the US, had 3 sons, settled in New Jersey. Mika rediscovered art and watercolor painting, took up ceramics. Bombay nasi goreng. She would travel now and then to Holland, return with jars of pungent spices, thick and sticky pastes, parcel out small tubs with tight-fitting lids for my mother. Be careful, she'd say. This batch is so fresh, very spicy. Soy sauce, brown sugar. She couldn't bring back everything. Adaptations were made. Soy sauce and brown sugar replaced kecap manis, Indonesian sweet soy sauce, green peas. In the early 1970s, her youngest son died. 2 years later, her husband. Art sustained her. She taught ceramics at the local psychiatric hospital and in her basement studio. There were rows of molds, glazes, underglazes, tables covered with newspapers, jars of brushes and sponges, a kiln in the corner, stacks of greenware, dust. Mix with pasta, should be dried to serve. I still have the recipe on an oil-stained slip of paper, my mother's handwriting bleeding through, a simple list, and my annotations. Let this marinate for an hour, more or less. Cook over low heat. 2 stalks, chopped. 1 tablespoon. Chinese, broken into fourths. Serve with a beer. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anne.
Yeah.
So let's see, Peter.
Thank you, Sherry. And thank you for saying that my recipe poem inspired you. It was wonderful. And Sherry, my background is for you because this building behind me is 1695 East 21st Street in Brooklyn, corner of Avenue P and East 21st Street, which is where I grew up in the Midwood section. So
Cool.
I wanted to share that with you. You can find all kinds of pictures on the internet. My poem, though, is not about anything all that deep, but it's the result of watching lots of seasons of reality shows. And that's why I call it Here for the Right Reasons. Watching from home with my wife, we play a drinking game. One shot bourbon every time the bachelor, bachelorette, or contestant asserts, exclaims, tattles, reminds, or insists that they are there for the right reasons. To find one perfect love. We get pretty tipsy by the middle of each episode. Reality shows provide a path to bliss through mansions, luxurious resorts, swish of evening gowns, tight bikinis, perfect makeup, buffed abs, hair slathered with product. Oh, to smell sweet scents of sensuous perfume, sample strong cosmopolitans, mixed cocktails, 60-year-olds like those on screen. The Bachelor and Bachelorette choose from more than 30 gorgeous contestants, all competing for their love. Anyone who ever walked high school halls dreamed of this fantasy, so alluring, some scheme to stay, lie about lives, pretend to plan futures together. Some aim for second place to enhance chances to become next season's star attraction. Only one competitor wins love. All others go home lonely. Yet when couples return to life, most proposed marriages fall apart or never start after seeing each other without makeup. Emotionally shattered contestants may earn more chances. There's always Bachelor in Paradise, perhaps Survivor, or Dancing with the Stars. Shows go on until networks cancel. I hope when we reach our last episode, we find we were here for the right reasons.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Well, you know,
Yeah,
you watch 5 years of reality shows, you got to write something about it.
Yeah, no, very funny. Emmett, would you like to read?
Love to. Just been challenged by the Orwellian world we live in now, that mirror on the wall, the television. So I wrote, can we all get along? Can we all get along? You speak of earthly majesty. You know who you are. Me, I ask about humanity. To take the life of a human being is evil. To extinguish human spirit is like a candle, is immoral. Immorality is more encompassing than that. The thirst in both appears unquenchable. There are constant rumors of wars. Has there not been enough killing, enough snuffing with gunpowder? Once there was crisscrossing of swords and hand-to-hand combat with daggers. Is the conflict internal? Deep-seated hatred of self? Primal? Reverberating is the question, can we all get along? How far is that from where humanity is in its evolution? Is there a revolving door we know not of? The earth spins on its axis and humanity a turnstile. I want off humanity's turnstile. I won't take my life to do it. Can we all get along? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emmett. Let's see, how about Stan? Would you like to read a poem, Stan?
Yeah, I'm in one now. Yeah. Happy holidays, everybody. And for Peter, I lived on Linden Boulevard and Rockaway Parkway, if you know where that is. It's called Ars Poetica. My muse, my creative hot streaks, so slow, so arbitrary in appearing, bringing glimpses of real brilliance, born within a wasteland of inertia and following eons of bold vacuity. Second thoughts about that hot streaks. Brilliance is unable to move the meter. The ideas no longer produce a smirk, needing any proper rewrite to sparkle. The evanescent creative hot streaks, unsparkling when exposed to the light of day, just lying there on the cutting room floor, mesmerizing me with another blank page. I consider the lilies of the field. That's it.
Thank you, Stan. We have such a nice community here. We have such nice friends. Thank you. Ingrid, would you like to read? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, I'd be happy to. I chose a poem that is in response to one that Susan read. And thank you, Susan and John, for your inspiring readings. And thank you, organizers, for making this possible tonight. Susan read a poem, and I didn't catch the title, but it mentioned Jiminy Cricket and the donkey. And I think we both saw that same film when we were kids, and I loved that film. Pinocchio, for those of you who may not have seen it or maybe don't remember that part. And I loved your line, Susan, there is a mystery in everything. I wrote that down. And so my poem is kind of covering that, or touching in that territory a little bit. The title is also the first line, and I wrote it for my daughter. And the title is In a Kingdom Long, Long Ago. Parents always knew the right thing to say at the very right time. And how they did that, I'll never stop envying. Like tonight, just one glance at the evening star, and there we are again. Play date ended, heading home in the blue Ford van. I'm schooling you in a childhood ritual I never truly held much stock in, but loved for its barefaced longing. Look, Pumpkin, the very first star. Make a wish. Mommy, you whispered, is there a crown on my head? Will this mother of yours, who should have been quicker, who could have said, oh, wow, it's glowing. Oh no, there it goes. Will this stumbling mother ever stop wishing she'd known a way to keep that luminous moment intact? And just as she's trying to figure out how to write this without being maudlin, you text from 3 time zones to the east. Sick Swan is saved after 23-mile odyssey by foot, car, and subway. Heart, I click. Wow, I write. Good night, dear princess. Sleep tight. Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Let's see. Susan Morris, would you like to read?
Sure. I'll read one kind of in the fairy tale, I guess, a little bit too, and to a daughter. I just happened to pull this one up, so I guess it kind of follows along with what we're doing here. This one is called In Our Own Particular Fairy Tale. Okay, in the kitchen, you peel ripe mangoes. You carve at least a dozen ribbons, scraping yellow flesh to expose the underlying pulp. How carefully you strip away the skin. I watch, knowing that tomorrow you will be gone again. Twice each year, we drive to the airport. You leave either in sweltering humidity or midwinter under needles of ice. Maine doesn't deal its seasonal blows in diminutives. Pale as a hung moon, you hug us goodbye. I turn away from your smile to the safety of our car. Daily phone calls dwindle. Face the music, fat lady, you seem to say. This kite flies just fine by itself. Or your favorite, I've already blown this popsicle stand. Your leave takings become waiting, waiting for you to come, waiting for you to go. No one holds the trump. We're a family of great pretenders, carrying on our night before you leave dinners and Santa cookies long after they are even a decent lie. Today, you keep peeling soft flesh. I stare at the damn skins which clutter the kitchen sink and listen to your casual whistle. I look anywhere but at the hard set of your face. I just know bruising will occur. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Armin, would you like to read?
Or I'll read one. Y'all are bringing the fire tonight. It's so great to hear everyone. This poem is called Full Moon Near Bursting. It's a bad idea, and you make it worse. Every mile you don't turn back and back off the past. Blame the westerlies. Blame the buck moon. You pass the town sign, still sponsored by the Lions. Snouts pockmarked with airgun pellets. A guardrail now cinches the hard dark curve of Valley Road, mangled already, scraped and charred 30 yards. Lilies across a stuffed Dalmatian mark the skid's end. Someone keeps the flowers fresh. The last time you acted with purpose, you lost a chunk of your thigh. You limp when it storms. Carol's Corner still sells a buttered Kaiser roll, but now it costs $4. Teens suck vapor in the parking lot and pelt each other with Swedish fish. The gutted husk across the street might have been the hardware store Columbo's Pizza. You can't quite focus. So many ghosts transposed from the present. A few stayed in town. They still call each other boys. The boys are loose at Casey O'Toole's, where they drink from the same pitcher of Coors, unless it's Cinco de Mayo. Maybe you'd be a boy if you stayed. If you see them, they won't know what you are, because you aren't sure yourself. They'll know that limp, though, and force you to stay for a shot. Isn't this why you came? Whose money or blood or apology do you plan to pour by pint in your mouth? Tell yourself all good. You ask the mourner who lays the lilies down how long he'll keep this up. It's rhetorical, you say, as in you know the answer. Beneath Valley Road, they dug the swamp up. There's now a park. The swings sway as a storm kicks up. The buck moon ruts on the gathering clouds. You've got plenty of gas. If you speed up a little, you can cross past the thunderclaps before they let loose. Lightning draws out the copperheads coiled beneath the slide. They crave the rain and static. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Talk about on fire. Let's see. Dale, would you like to read?
Sure.
Okay.
Speaking of rattlesnakes, I'm writing some Medusa poems, and this is one of them. Anchored boat lullaby. But I split wrong, only my mind split into an array of sirens with show tunes played in between them. That's a quote from Max Ritbo. That night, the three of us shared a banana split, chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, butterscotch drizzles, sprinkles and whipped cream. We dressed to the nines, nothing unnatural between us. Tony Randall, Jack Benny, and Fred Astaire crooned and tripped behind us. Ziggy Stardust at the microphone. We presented identical as the triplets of Belleville, 2 sirens and a monster, the 3 of us cleaved like a bolt of forked lightning, although 100 times more deadly. Check out our hairdos, flipped, ratted, and coiled. We sang like canaries, criminal and complicit. There in the dusk, we larked above phosphorescent water. Schools of happy blue-eyed fish, joyous as raisins in rice pudding, darted through aqua shoals. Ships bobbed like children's sandpails, dotting the crests and swells. And down below, in the ballrooms of the sea, those sailors, jolly lifeguards, never shouted, "Help me, I don't know how to swim," sinking in their goggles and nose plugs, snorkeling the tempestuous breakers until they could fall no further.
Thank you, Dale. This is great. So let's see, our next reader is Nancy. Would you like to read?
Sure. I've been trying to decide what I wanted to read, listening to everyone else's work. Forgive me for this terribly serious poem. When my mother died, her right eyelid didn't close all the way, leaving a shallow band of opaque at the bottom. And I tried to close it using my right fingertips, the way they used to do in the movies. You know, close the eyes of the deceased with one pass of the hand over the face, then cover over the body with a blanket. Well, it didn't work. It wouldn't stay closed. So I drew back for a moment. Then I leaned down and pressed it back open, the globe still warm and firm underneath, just to see, and the light blue iris poking out just a little in the center. But it wouldn't stay open. It would only slide slowly back down, leaving that same shallow band of opaque at the bottom. Not her choice, not mine, but some other. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Nancy. Let's see, Stella, would you like to read? Thanks for being so patient.
Not this time. Thank you.
Okay. So am I forgetting anybody? Shirley, I didn't know if you wanted to read. Did you? No, I didn't think so. Okay. Let's see if I'm forgetting anybody.
Sure.
Mary, yeah. Hi. So dark there, Rosemary.
Thank you. Should I go?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There. Now you got it?
Yeah.
The turtles are trying to sleep back there.
Okay.
So that's the darkness. This is called Other Realms, which I wrote for Lynn Cox, the swimmer. Serendipity alone showed me the turtle swimming in the distance as I floated, languid, beyond the maelstrom of the surf. A stray wave turned me his way, and I saw him come to life in a frolic of youth, like a dream or blued mirage, a butterfly below the waves who surged to the surface for air, then dipped to skim by rainbow-tinted rocks, where anemones flowered with tentacles waving him on beyond their high tide mealtime, their twice daily picnic, so dangerous to prey. With my eyes and mind on the turtle's play, my ears missed the warning growl of the sand and the waves, and a rogue spewed me out unawares. I hit the beach with force. The gravity of my terrestrial self returned, and I wished for the freedom allowed by a space like the wavering depth of the turtle's world, to fly into valleys and fly into heights, escaping in play to extra dimensions like the eagle above who soars through the air, the turtle who soars beneath the waves. But I am a visitor, foreign to the height beyond trees and the realm of the sea. I must go home to plod with my ground-bound feet on the earth, above the water and underneath the sky.
Thanks, Rosemary. And Cecilia, I didn't ask you, are you interested in reading?
No, thanks. I don't have anything.
Okay. Okay. Well, can everybody unmute themselves so we can talk?
Oh, Sherry, could I go? This is Liz.
Oh, Liz, yeah, sure. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I would also like to read if it's possible. I have something super short.
Yeah, I thought Kathleen, I didn't hear her read either.
Should I go, Sherry?
Yeah, go ahead, Liz.
Okay. Yeah, okay, gotcha. This is called Helix. I wake with watermelon in duet with last night's dream. Check my well for water. Watch light balance on the sundial. Notice the downy woodpecker looking less confused. I wake and separate the knower from the known. Brush dirt from a hidden turquoise tile. Smile. Inhale vials of fragrance. Glance at the rainbow flicker and the prism of dew, languid in the petal of a rose. I wake and do a frenzied dance to symbols everywhere, the ancient ones crouching in the belly of the day. I wake and calligraph the morning, stitch it to the afternoon, the wheel of evening gracing towards midnight, then awake to thank you for Omega morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. I'm glad that we didn't miss you. So, well, thank you, everybody. If it, sometimes we just.
All right, we still haven't gotten Kathleen, right?
Oh, no. Where's Kathleen?
I'm right here.
Oh, Kathleen. Sorry, Kathleen.
That's okay.
Okay, now you'll be the one. Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm kind of new to this group. Anyway, this is a quick short poem. It's probably the beginning of a series. It's for the poet laureate Charles Simic, who I've never met. And it's called The Name at 3 a.m. An imagined encounter with Charles Simic. It started with drinks after a reading. You chose my poems, Small Time College Press decades ago, which led to traded tales of exotic life trauma like rounds of go fish in a tipsy ebb and flow. The slaps of our pasts hitting the table like cards demanding a match. Rounds repeated, we retreated from the reception to my place until we had a pile of competing grief heaped with adultery between sheets. Before you left, you tried to remember my name. I already told you, Simic, I am just an anonymous one-night stand card game.
That's so great. Thank you. Okay, before I say goodnight, is there anyone else who wants to read who hasn't read? No? Okay. All right, so let's unmute and just, talk a little bit before you go to bed, Peter, or.
Yeah, it's a little, we had a tough day in Orlando. It was temperatures all the way down to 70 degrees.
Gosh, it just makes me shiver.
It's just great to see everybody. I'm so thrilled I'm still able to join you folks out in Portland at a reasonable hour.
Yeah.
Where are you, Peter?
I'm in Orlando, Florida.
Uh-huh.
The Brooklyn thing is just, where I grew up.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, so in January, Emmett's going to read with John Sibley Williams, and I'm saying that because you're there, Emmett. And something to look forward to. And then again, next month is our really long open mic. I don't know, an hour and a half open mic. And then I'm hoping that we will be alive ourselves. I really can't wait to be in person. I don't know how you feel, but especially poetry readings. It's like, I meant it when I said to you, Susan, that it's like this abyss with little heads, it's just, it's not the same thing.
So Peter should get his tickets now.
Yeah.
I actually have a whole month off in February, so
okay,
I
we'll plan
may try and see if I can get out when you're having the open mic.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna talk to the governor, have the governor shut the state down, so you'll just be here.
You said we're all going to, and you said you were all going to go live. You're looking forward to us being live. I was thinking alive. I really hope we are.
Both.
I would love to see, a hybrid model or every other month so that we could get people like Peter from far away.
Yeah.
I mean, I love live too, but I really love Zoom because you can get so many people from other places. So I know it's really a hard choice.
That's my goal. Yeah, that's been my goal, to have both. Because like
that would be nice.
You're in Salem, Susan, I don't think you're gonna drive to Portland just for a reading. Well, I don't know.
Probably not. I don't drive much at night anymore.
Yeah.
Cecilia and I are in Eugene, so we get to be here tonight. So thank you.
Okay.
And Nancy's in Baker City, and
Yeah. So, well, and Kathleen, where do you live?
I'm in Oregon City.
Oh, okay.
Oregon City,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I encourage you, every month we do this, and it's been great. We have our community, and so happy to have John come tonight and Susan. So
It was really, really wonderful you mentioned Charles Simic in your poem. He's just a great read for a poet. So, but the way you wove in your adulterous relationship with him was very unique.
Imagined. I think he's like 80.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And married.
Yeah. So, anyway.
I got to meet him in Belfast, Maine one time. So
Really? I
was
missed
lovely.
him at a reading in 1999 and I regret it.
Yeah.
I gave him lunch once.
Ooh.
When I was really young and I was newly married and my husband was head of creative writing and invited him to read at the U of O, and he didn't talk to me at all. I just served the meal.
Well, Susan, more in honor of your sending your poem to a poet, I sent this to Charles Simic and I have not received a response yet.
It makes you wonder why.
He actually did a reading in Orlando some years ago, and I went to it, and Billy Collins, who lives in Orlando, was in the audience just listening.
Wow.
And he said one thing in that reading that just liberated me for all of my writing. He said, listen, all poetry is fiction. You shouldn't worry about it. Yes, if you're going to base it on something real, great. But at the end of the day, it's fiction. Try and make it as good as you can make it. Change the details. It's all right.
What do you think about that? Is that true?
Yes.
What do I think about that? I think it's just tremendously liberating. I don't worry about, like if I'm writing about my life, which I do, I don't worry so much that, oh, really, my dad never actually said that. I'll just put it in the poem. He should have said that.
I think someone once said life is faction. So, fact and fiction mixed together, action.
I want to say to Sherry, hey, thank you so much for doing this. Look, doing these are not easy. Many of us host these kinds of things. There's a lot more that goes on beyond just appearing and doing it. And I can't speak enough of Dale Chaplin, I'm sorry. What you do, got the first name right, screwed up the last name, but what she does is incredible. So just both of those, let's just thank them for what they do.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, John. Thanks.
Thank
Hope
you.
to see you next month, December 21st.
Have a great month. Have a happy New Year. Oh,
are
that's right. We'll see each other before New
Happy New
Year.
Year.
See you later.
Thank you, everyone. See you in December.
See you in
Thank you.
December.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.